What's up, guys? It's Showtime's Fight Forum. I'm your boy Showtime, and as always, thank you for watching. All right, we had a lot of fights this weekend. Nothing bigger than the Tyson Fury versus Dillon White, but we also had a UFC fight. Jessica Andrade shows why she is still a tough out for anybody who is not Valentina Shevchenko. She's game. To get that arm triangle standing, you have to be some type of strong. And granted, she looks the part, but we see that grip strength is ridiculous. And to be able to choke somebody to sleep that way, woo, woo. I also think like having those short arms kind of helps it a little bit as well. But excellent victory. I'm excited to see what she's going to do at 115. I mean, there's still a lot of opponents for her to fight. I don't see her being that close to a title shot just because there's so many dogs at 115. 125, she got marched over, and no one cares to ever see that fight ever again. So she's kind of in a flux, but I just genuinely want her to keep main eventing and getting these fights. She is an exciting fighter, one of the most exciting female fighters of all time, in my opinion. And she's always game. And she needs to make her coins. So, I mean, I don't really think she's going to be champion again, but, I mean, I love what I see. And Amanda's going to have to go back to the drawing board. I mean, you've lost to a great fighter, but obviously we learned that you got to work on some stuff in your game. And it's hard to say necessarily, work on your jiu-jitsu, because that was a tough situation to get put in instantly in like the first few minutes of the fight. So, yeah. Bellator, they had two nights. They had Cyborg, she dominated, and then they also had the Grand Prix tournament. Horiguchi lost. I mean, who I believe was actually the favorite to win the entire tournament and loses in semis. I mean, it was a close fight. I mean, I personally scored it 3-2 Horiguchi, but I'm okay with saying Horiguchi lost. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it was a very close fight, and I'm not one of those guys that be like, oh my God, I can't believe Horiguchi did. But the guy I really want to talk about is Stouts. The guy's gonna win the tournament. I mean, after he fought Magomedov, I was very impressed with him, with his wrestling, to be able to out-wrestle him and to be able to, grind him. Grinding these Russians is not something we've seen before, really. And to be able to do that shows what type of wrestler you are. If I believe correctly, Stouts is a national champion D2 wrestler, like along the likes of Kamaru Usman. And it was just, I mean, you see it, he uses it, he implements it, but he also has really good striking. I mean, this division is tough. This 135-pound division is, I said 135. This division is extremely, extremely tough, and I can't wait to see the finale, and we get to crown ourselves, I guess, a semi-champion because Sergio's not there. But it's just a lot of dogs in this, and I do think this is their deepest division in Bellator. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the future with this weight class. Now, the fight that I really want to talk about is obviously the big fight, the main event, the heavyweight champion, the greatest heavyweight in the world, and that is Tyson freaking Fury fighting Dillon White. First things first, that intro was crazy. The entrance is crazy. I think people have to realize how much chutzpah you have to have that kind of entrance with a sold out crowd with 70,000 plus cheering you on. You have fireworks. You're sitting on a throne. The adrenaline dump, the scaredness, you know how hard that is. You have millions of people looking at you to perform, and it's literally about you in your home area. It's to be able to perform like that. It's just, it needs to be some type of science on this, on the mental stability of these guys to be able to be calm in these kind of moments, because it's not easy. These will crumble anybody, but these guys are obviously elite. Tyson looked amazing. I mean, he outboxed him for 6 rounds, and then he hit him with the most perfect uppercut. That uppercut was beautiful, picture perfect, landed flush, and Dillon is a little chinny when it comes to uppercuts, and he got caught, and it was all she wrote. Tyson is now developed knockout power. He's knocking these dudes. He's hurting these dudes now. This Sugar Hill has really been tuning his game up, and he's a threat to finish you now. At first it was just he's gonna outbox you. He's gonna be the slicker fighter. There's nothing you could do about it. He's just too smooth. Now he can hurt you badly. I mean, what can we say? Now I'm gonna say this. People have to stop hating on this era of heavyweights. Stop hating on Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is an all-time great heavyweight. He's in my top 10. He is 32-0. He has really good wins. Dillon White is a solid name. Deontay Wilder, in my opinion, 3 times. Solid name. He has the clinch code. Solid name. Like, I mean, we gotta stop hating on the era. We gotta start looking at the fighter. He can't help that. He's beat everybody he's ever fought, and he's dominated a good portion of these guys. Even the ones that weren't so fun to watch, he dominated. He was just that good. And I've said this before. He stacks up well with every heavyweight boxer that's ever existed. The one that is a bad matchup stylistically is really Lennox Lewis. But also, and even still, with the way Tyson is fighting right now, he can very well knock out Lennox Lewis, because Lennox Lewis is a little chinny too. He's been clipped and knocked out a couple times. I mean, what more can you say about Tyson? He's athletic, great feet. Now he has power, good head movement. He sets up his shots beautifully. He has an unorthodox style. He has a weird feints that you really can't time too well. I mean, it's hard to say you'll ever see somebody that is the size of a Tyson Fury move like he's a freaking cruiserweight, like a middleweight. That's unseen. He's a top 10 heavyweight, guys. I don't care about he doesn't have the greatest resume. I know what I see. He has fought great fighters, and he has beaten these great fighters. That's enough for me. He beats Usyk, or obviously the winner of Usyk and Johnson. I know people are saying he's retired. I'll talk about that in a little bit. He wins that and becomes unified, and especially if he looks dominant in that. What more do we have to say? But like I said before, one thing I do want people to comment on is, outside of Lennox Lewis, let me know who do you think is a great matchup for him. Because here's the thing. One thing I also don't like is the people who say he can easily beat anybody just because he's 6'9". He just sit here and outbox everybody. He's just too big. Cut it out. Like one, okay, yes, he's big. But that's not, let's not overrate his size, and let's not underrate it. He has been dropped by a cruiserweight before. Steve Cunningham has dropped him, who's also, 6'2"? Just because Muhammad Ali, let's not disrespect Muhammad Ali because he was 6'2", or Joe Louis because he was 6 feet, and sit here and say, these guys wouldn't survive in this era because these guys are too tall. Great fighters can adjust. Tyson Fury can be punched. He has been punched. Muhammad Ali is much more powerful than Steve Cunningham. So just because you believe he's small, which theoretically now, a lot of the heavyweights back in those days are small, but we got to remember those big heavyweights in those times too. I mean, I remember they had a fighter called Big Bear who was like 6'7", fighting Joe Louis. Joe Louis knocked him out. So let's cut the size out and make it seem like that's the only thing. What makes Tyson Fury is also how he incorporates his style to his size, and that's what makes him special, and that's what makes him a weird matchup for everybody, and that's why he genuinely can beat. Like, I'm not saying he would beat everybody, but I know for a fact he can beat every heavyweight that ever existed. Can beat. And some people say, well, you can say that about anybody. No, you really can't. Deontay Wilder is not beating it. He can, well, I mean, I guess with his power, he can beat everybody. I'll say Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua cannot beat every all-time great heavyweight. There are certain heavyweights that are just gonna beat the hell out of him. It's just a terrible matchup. He doesn't have enough skill. He doesn't have, unfortunately, enough heart to beat these guys. So, like I said, you can't say that about everybody, but Tyson, you do. Now, the last thing we'll talk about is he actually gonna retire? The answer is absolutely not. Tyson Fury is not going to retire. He will fight again. I think he will unify, and then he'll be done for the rest of his life. Or he'll retire for a couple years, come back, and not be what he was. But maybe, a new contender comes out. He's like, oh, I want to try you. You're not good. And might lose. But I don't see Tyson Fury retiring without being a unified champ. It hasn't happened in 20 years. He's big on making history. He also wants to make more money. I think he really wants Anthony Joshua to win so he can get this fight. However, I don't think Anthony Joshua is going to be good enough to beat Usyk. So he's going to have to fight Usyk regardless. And then he'll eventually become the unified champ, and we'll be able to say he's genuinely a top 10 heavyweight of all time. I have him in my top 10. Don't care what anybody believes. You can have your own. You can give me yours. But you're the same people who have Mike Tyson number 2 in your all-time list. So, okay. But as always, man, let me know what you guys think. Comment, like, share, because we trying to make that thing blow up. So, thank you. This is Showtime's Fight Form. Make sure y'all stay blessed.